Welcome to the DNA show.
DNA? Dude, are we doing a science show?
No, D is for Dennis.
Oh, A is for Andy.
And N is for and?
Oh, man, nerds.
Oh, yeah.
We're nerds, dude.
Yeah. Well, good. Then we can talk about comics and movies and pop culture and sports.
Sports. Sports and nerds. Yeah, we're going to make that work.
All right, let's roll.
Who's that manacle son of a bee laughing, Dennis?
Wow, that sounds like Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker.
The Joker. So we'll be talking a little Batman 3 Jokers today. We'll be talking about the movie Tenet. Dennis and I saw it, so we'll give you a review. But before all that, Heidi-ho, welcome back to the Dennis and Andy Show. I'm Andy.
And this is Dennis as usual. Welcome back.
All right, so it was a few weeks ago, Batman 3 Jokers came out. It's a DC Black Label book, which means they can cuss. I think that's about it. They can cuss, maybe show a little bit more.
It's adult themed. I'll just say it's got adult themes and scenes and things that they won't put into the kid-friendly books.
Well, there's no sex in it.
No.
It's more violence.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a Black Label. It's a 3-issue series, but it's more like 6 because this looks like it's a 48-pager, square bound. It's written by Jeff Johns, drawn by Jason Fabok, and colored by Brad Anderson. So from a visual standpoint, you will not be let down.
Nope. I will say I've been doing a lot less of DC books, but it looked interesting. And the moment I picked the book up, I looked at the art. That's the first thing that caught my eye. And I'm like, oh, I'm really liking this. So I picked it up just for the art standpoint. And then we read.
You sound like me.
I know.
It's funny because I picked it up and, I was like, oh, $7. But, it is 48 pages, so it is technically 2 books or a little more than 2 books.
Yep.
So, and I'm assuming it's 48 because it's square bound. There's no page numbers, but it's a square bound book, so I'm going 48. But so I was a little hesitant. Then I talked to some guys at the shop and was like, look, don't spoil anything for me, but what's the gist? Because I never really read anything about it online, too. I just saw ads for it and stuff on the comic book news sites. So they kind of gave me the gist, which is, there's basically, the basic rundown is there's three Jokers in Gotham City. And, Batman and the cops don't realize there's literally 3 separate Jokers that meet up and chat and talk. So that's the first mystery is, well, who's the real Joker? I mean, you can't have 3 of them.
Or can you? So
well, with the multiverse, I guess. I don't know.
But what's interesting was a while back, Batman sat in Metrome's chair.
Yep.
And he wanted to know the identity. And this is where I guess all the theories started coming out. And he said, what's the identity of the Joker?
Right.
And he's like, which one? There are 3. What?
Oh.
Whoa, wait a minute. Well, how can there be 3 Jokers? So then this led into everybody coming up with their theories about, is it a multiverse thing? Did they come over? Are they making Jokers? Is one the original?
Wait, when he sat in the chair, was that the dark metal thing the Capullo did that Snyder wrote that, right?
I think so,
I think
yeah.
It was, yeah. Okay. I do remember that because I did get that series. So that's cool. So the
fans are just trying to figure out now, well, who are the 3 Jokers and what's the bearing? Because it hasn't come up. I mean, they've had no explanations to it until now.
Well, and in the first book, I don't think, I read it, a week or so ago. I don't think Batman or any of the cops realize there's 3 individual Jokers. Right now, they're going off of, okay, how could there be 3 murders in 3 different parts of Gotham that all have a Joker trademark and witnesses that said they saw the Joker there. So that's the mystery they're unraveling. And then the mystery for the reader is, what's the deal with the three Jokers? Just touching on the art again, I've always liked Jason Fabok's work. I got Justice League Suicide Squad because of him. I've bought other things DC's put out. One of the things I liked about this book, it has a very, and this goes with Jeff Johns and the writing of it. It has a very, what's the Watchmen thing that just came out that he did with Gary Frank? I'm totally blanking on it. It's the hardcover. Come on, you bought it. The hardcover where they bring the Watchmen into the DC universe. You bought it.
Yeah, you're talking the button, the whole thing with
but what was it called? Button. Doomsday Clock.
Yeah, the Doomsday
Clock. So this has that same type of vibe from the standpoint of 9-panel pages, 6-panel pages, standard grids.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the big explosive, varying shape panels and things like that, which is, as an artist, that's what I enjoy doing when I break down a page. I don't like going with standard grids unless I have a specific storytelling reason behind it, which there was in Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. And I assume in Doomsday Clock, because that was Watchmen-esque, Jeff wrote it that same way. But it looks like he decided to write this along those lines as well, with the 9-panel grids and 6-panel grids. And then every now and then there is that big panel that's thrown in, and it's definitely for emphasis. I mean, I'm looking at a page now, and this isn't a spoiler. It's based on a grid, so there's 3 panels at the top, and the second tier, instead of being 3 panels, is just a cinematic panel going across, and it's establishing shot of Batgirl, or Batwoman. What is she?
It's Barbara Gordon.
Barbara Gordon. And then it goes back to the bottom tier, third tier, 3 panels. So they're using the bigger panels for, more punch storytelling wise, but it's basically 9-panel grids, which for this story, I think it works. And I think it works really well. I will say I really liked, writing wise, story wise, one of the things I liked a lot about it is how it starts. And it starts with basically Batman's coming back from, a mission, whatever, in the Batmobile, and he literally runs into the headstones of his parents and takes them out.
So you know he's wounded.
Yeah, he's wounded.
And right away, I need to fix my parents' stones, and Alfred's like, Master Bruce, we'll take care of that after I get you patched up.
And then,
it's an awesome scene.
Oh, the sequence over the next few pages showing Alfred tend to Batman's wounds.
So FYI, there's spoilers. So if you haven't read it and you don't want to hear it, you're going to have to. And same thing with Tenet. Where there are going to be spoilers. Yeah, but you do want to pick this up.
So it just goes through, and not getting into the different wounds, but you just see how beat up Batman is and the different things that cause these wounds. Well, and scars, because he's tending to wounds, but then you see all these other scars on his body, and they show in flashback how he got him, which I thought was cool.
Right. So you see like his entire back is nothing but scars.
Right.
And then you'll see a flashback, and this one was from an umbrella. This one was from a card. This one was from an acid splash. And what you can't quite tell are these all Joker wounds, or because some of them look like the umbrella. That could be, a Penguin, Riddler. So it was kind of interesting. It's a little vague in there, but all of these wounds that you see all over his body are all of the scars of everything that he's been through. And after every battle, he comes back and has to get attended to.
Right.
And right away, Pennyworth's like, let's
patch up, Bruce.
Let's do. Where's this one at? Where did this one come from? And it's just great. I mean, you start getting the feeling, and then they do the flashback, which goes back to Bruce's origin,
right?
And again, they left. What was they left the movie, and it was Zorro. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
They took a shortcut through the back alley, and that's when everything, changed. So they go back and they start relating it from his past to what's going on right now, leading up to it. I mean, it's again, instantly, even though there's no action, you're drawn into the character, and Jeff Johns has written it in such a way that I want to find out more what's been going on. I mean, it automatically drew me into the book immediately.
Well, I think what he did was, and I don't know if this was conscious or not, I assume it is, because, when I draw stuff, 90% of it is, consciously, this is why I'm doing things. Same with writing, is it could be somebody's first Batman book that's never heard of Batman or read Batman, and you get it. You see his origin, you see his cast of villains all within like the first 10 pages.
Right.
You get a sense of all that. So it really is from the standpoint of, Stan Lee, Mr. Marvel used to say, every comic is somebody's first. So you want to, whether it's Fantastic Four 55 or 3 or 200 something, it's somebody's first comic. So you want to do a good job of establishing the characters. And that doesn't mean, in Fantastic Four 248, I got to tell their origin all over again. Of course not. But you still want to get the characters' names out and, so on and so forth. And I think Jeff did a great job with, this is a book that if nobody's ever read Batman before can pick it up and go, oh, his parents were killed. Oh, that's why the Bat. Oh, these are some of his villains. And from here, they could really be like, I want to read more Batman stuff.
Right.
And then pick up any Batman book that doesn't tell his origin, but they'll know it, So I thought that was really cool. And then, the three different incarnations of the Joker I thought were cool.
So what they do is they're patching him up. You see Barbara Gordon. She's running on a treadmill. She's in a gym.
Yep.
And all of a sudden there's breaking news. The Joker kills the Moxon entire crime family, kills them all off. They're like, whoa. Well, at the same time, Joker was also seen to have been at the death of 3 men at Ace Chemicals. You're like, whoa. And then Joker was seen, and then there was a third instance, and they're seeing this and like, wow. So Bruce has to obviously go back out as Batman, and Barbara Gordon's on the treadmill. She's at full speed. She's running. She actually breaks the treadmill because she sees all of this.
Again.
Yep. And, and then introduce, well, what's going on? And they start going to the scene and start looking, picking up clues. And Batman's talking to somebody, and the cops thinks he's all kind of crazy. And he's actually talking to Batgirl. And then Red Hood gets involved, and it's really well done. How they bring you in and realizing, well, there's 3 incidents all by the Joker, all at the exact same time. That's physically not possible. Well, so either somebody's masquerading, which is what you immediately think, or they've got help, or there's something else going on.
Well, the other thing Jeff sets up nicely, too, is after Barbara leaves the gym, she's taking a shower, and they show a wound on her. And they do a flashback of how she got it. And it's a reference to the Killing Joke when she was having dinner with her dad. Somebody knocked on the door. She opened the door, and it was the Joker, and the Joker shot her, which is what shattered her spine and, put her in the wheelchair. Of course, she's not anymore. So they do that. And then, like Dennis said, they introduce the Red Hood. And the Red Hood is Jason Todd, who was the Robin that was killed by the Joker in the 80s. That is back, and they do a flashback of him and his dealing with the Joker. So the 3 Jokers they set up in the book being the Joker from the 80s that killed Jason Todd, the Joker that shot Barbara Gordon, and then the main Joker that Batman's always dealt with.
So it's basically the Silver Age Joker, and they make him look great. He looks old. And I mean, you can tell right away when you see him, he looks really old. And then I would call it the Killing Joke Joker, and which was interesting because the Killing Joke at its point in time was kind of like an Elseworld. It was a standalone. He wasn't part of it.
Nope.
But everybody who's a Batman fan has come to realize that origin of Joker has become the most popular, and that a lot of fans actually say that that's the true origin of Joker.
Yeah, and they wove it into the main DC universe with Barbara being in the wheelchair and Oracle and all this stuff. I can't remember how they got her. Do you remember how they got her out of the wheelchair walking again? Because I don't remember that.
No, but what I do is, and then I said Tim Drake, but it's Jason Todd.
Yeah.
And then for those of us at that time, I had a Freudian slip there. They were, we got to vote, at the time it was a 900 number. And for those of you not old enough to know, you had to spend like 50 cents or 99 cents. It was per vote. And you call the 900 number and you could vote. Did you want to kill Robin or do you want to keep him alive? And a lot of us voted multiple times.
See, I was already racking up money on those 900 numbers for other reasons back in the 80s. Not dealing with
that explains where your money went.
Exactly. So I was like, yeah, I could spend that money to weigh in on killing Robin or not, or I could talk to a lady.
Yep. Yeah. So it was, like I said, it was interesting, and so that's kind of the three Jokers that you're dealing with, and eventually they meet. And the Silver Age, they call him the Boss. Yeah. So, wait till Boss sees this. And they're all creepy and unique in their own way. And they capture their personalities, I thought, so incredibly well.
Well, it's funny because the Silver Age one is almost like a Heath Ledger type because he ain't smiling.
Right.
He's more serious and grim and stuff. I mean, he gets his chuckles in there, but he is definitely the more serious out of the two. So then it comes down to, and we're not going to spoil the ending of and like we said, only one issue's out. And we didn't want to wait till all three. We want to review it.
Yeah, normally we wait till everything's out so we can review it, but this is so good and there's so many cool parts to it that we kind of wanted to talk about number one so that you guys can rush out and still get number one and make sure you get 2 and 3, because this might be my favorite storyline so far since Court of Owls. I mean, I think this is just so well done. But they do some creepy stuff. They do one in where they get into the aquarium and they've dumped the Ace chemicals and stuff in there.
So Dennis says it's Batman, Jason Todd, the Hood, right? That's his name.
Yeah, he's
the Hood,
Red
Hood. And Batgirl all get to this aquarium because they're led there by clues and stuff. And there's basically a standoff at the aquarium, and we'll just leave it at this because I thought one of the reasons I got it is because the shop owner was like, "Don't go to the last page," because sometimes I'll flip right to the last page of a book. He's like, "Don't do that. Just read it because the ending's awesome." And I was like, "All right." So I'm glad I didn't flip to it because it is a great ending. One of the Jokers, we'll just leave it at that, shows up at the aquarium, and shit goes down between Barbara, Batman, and the Red Hood with that particular Joker. So it's a great cliffhanger.
It is, and the action scenes and what happens. Again, Jeff Johns puts you in such an emotional state. So I stopped reading the Red Hood a while back and stuff like that because it was a kind of a vanilla character. He drew back and went back to like his early time and what happened with him when he died with the Joker and all the feelings he was able to write. And suddenly you were like, oh my God, this is amazing. I mean, you felt what was going on. And then with him and Barbara, we don't want to spoil the ending, but let's just say it is some of the best writing that I've read in a while. Thank you, DC, for putting this out. Now 2 and 3 just have to be as good because this drew me into this 3-issue miniseries. I'm just going to say on our comic book scale, I am giving this a 9.6.
Wow, that high.
Yep.
Man, that is pushing 10. That is pushing the 10 meter.
I know. I'm telling you, it is near mint. I mean, this is. I actually went back the following week, and they got different covers for it.
Oh yeah.
And I wound up picking up 3 more covers that I absolutely just love because I like this book that much.
Fanboy alert! Fanboy alert! Fanboy alert! No, I only bought one. I got the Batman cover. Each cover is a close-up. So there's one with a close-up of Batman, And then the rest are just Jokers, right? I don't think there's a Red Hood. It's just the other covers are just different.
Yeah,
Jokers.
for the main ones. So the three Jokers.
Right.
And then there's the Batman. The regular covers was Batman and then a Joker. And then you have the three Jokers as your standalone. They had other higher end variants and stuff, which I didn't get into, but I really enjoyed after reading this. I really liked the three Jokers. So I went and picked one of each of them up. Loved it.
There's just really good dialogue between the characters as well in it. I thought Jeff captured really well. And Jason's art, great facial expressions. He's a very detailed artist. That's the other reason it gives me he's in the same vein as Gary Frank when it comes to the amount of rendering for, if people are going, what's rendering? It's the line work that indicates shading and light and shadow, and Gary Frank and Jason do a lot of line work to indicate light and shadow, and they're very complementary to each other. So, going from Doomsday Clock to this with the same type of storytelling that Jeff is doing with the 9-panel grids, it's really great. I mean, it's a fantastic book. So can't say good enough things. My grade for it is actually 8.5. Dude, 9.6. That's really pushing 10. I can't go that far.
I'm telling you, this potentially
8.5 is still now. Hey, after all three are out, maybe all three as a whole story series, it'll go up.
Yep.
Because I could go 8.5 for this one. Let's say issue 2, I'm really blown away, and I go 9.6. So maybe I'll do, and you could do the same. We'll do an average of the three to get our final grade.
We'll see. Its job as the first issue is to draw you in and make you want to read it.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, I've kind of been doing a lot less DC stuff. Marvel, I've been kind of dwindling on some of their stuff that they've been putting out too. But I'm going to say this one captured me, that this has the potential to be among my top 3 all-time favorite storylines. That's how much I enjoyed number 1.
Wow.
I know.
Just to touch base on something. So last week we talked about Empire number 6. And I will say I had a complaint after we got off recording. I was looking through it, and Marvel puts a code in every comic. So you can, you sign up for a Marvel account, and then you put in the code. So then you'll have the physical copy of the book, and you'll have an online copy that you can download and take with you and whatever. So, if it wasn't offered to me, I wouldn't search out codes. I wouldn't buy, I don't buy a lot of stuff that's just digital. But because Marvel puts it in the book, I want to take advantage of it. So every Marvel comic I buy, I pull the little sticker thing off to reveal the code. I type in the code so I can have stuff on the go. Well, Dennis, when I got to that page in my book, lo and behold, no code. Dennis, no code.
Oh, no.
50-year-old me was having a tantrum like a child because I had no code. So I was just going to be disgruntled and be like, well, damn. But Dennis is like, no, man. Take a picture of the cover, take a picture of the page.
And the receipt.
And email their service or customer support, and trust me, you'll get one. So I'm like, all right, I'll see about this. So I emailed customer support. I didn't attach any of that stuff right out of the gate because there's no way to. So I just emailed them and said, hey, I bought this book. The code page, there's nothing there. It's just blank where it should be. Can you help me out? And I figured that's that. What do you know? A day later, so that was shocking. I got a nice email saying if you could please provide us with either a photo of the cover, your receipt, or a photo of the page. So not even all 3, just one of the 3 will get you one. So I was like, oh yeah. So I shot a photo of the cover, shot a photo of the page, didn't have the receipt handy, sent them those 2 things. A few days go by. So I was kind of like, oh, I see how it goes. But lo and behold, this morning, there's the email with the code. Yep. So I was able to redeem it, and now I've got it. So 50-year-old kid Andy's happy again because he has all his empires in the cloud.
So it happens. I used to work in a printing press, and when it goes down there, it happens where something doesn't get attached. I've had to do it multiple times, over the last few years, because I usually buy all my Marvel books. I put my codes in. I still like to read the paper copy, but I do travel and stuff, and it's nice to be able to just to download them on a tablet and read them, or laying there at night, everybody else is sleeping. I can do it in the dark and just flip it up. So I do like it.
I do it in the dark.
Yep. I bet you do.
I do a lot in the dark.
Yes.
It's funny, when you worked at that printing place you were telling me about way back, they sold Playboy, or they did Playboys and stuff, right?
Yep.
Didn't you say that?
Oh, yeah.
It's funny.
They did a lot of magazines.
But with the Playboys, it's just weird that after every one of your shifts, all the Playboys you were dealing with never had the centerfolds. That's just odd.
No, that's not true.
I wonder why that is.
The cool thing with it, because I used to work at one, you could, at the end, any of the magazines were 25 cents, because, they always had problems with some of them. They didn't make quality control, whatever. Except for Playboys, they were 50 cents.
No way.
Yep.
Playboys bounced at
Yep,
Sports Illustrated, quarter. Playboy, 50.
Yep, 2 bits or 4 bits. That's what they cost you for the magazine.
Hysterical.
I always wish that we printed comic books, because that would have been awesome, but we didn't. We didn't do the comics.
Oh, okay. Well, moving on.
So after that, we decided we braved the theaters again, and I'm glad we did. And we went and saw Tenet. This is the movie Andy and I have been talking about. We were so bummed when this whole thing got pushed back. And this is definitely a movie that we wanted to see. Christopher Nolan, his new one, time traveling. And all we knew is that it was that the actor was going back to fight for the survival of the world. And anyway, we went.
It's 2.5 hours long, but that's Christopher Nolan for you.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about Christopher Nolan is it was literally last year at this time. Actually, I think it was June of last year. We were in the theaters in 2019, and you just saw Tenet come on screen. And you're just Christopher Nolan Tenet. You're like, what the F is that?
Yep.
And then as the year went on, he dripped out more, and then you finally saw, the main character, John David Washington, on screen, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And you see Robert Pattinson, which usually makes me want to throw up in my mouth, because I always think Twilight, which I'm not a Twilighter.
Yeah, neither am I, but my daughter is.
I've seen him because my sister-in-law is.
Yeah.
So I've seen him with her. And, they were entertaining, but it's tough, because that was my first exposure to Robert Pattinson, which I think that was like his first big deal anyhow.
It was.
Yeah, so I don't feel bad for him, because, he got a sweet payday out of those movies. But at the same time, sometimes movies like that, if that's your first outing and that's what you get typecast as, because it's like, oh, we don't want to use Robert Pattinson, he's the Twilight guy. It can actually hurt an actor's career. I mean, look at, this isn't a movie, but look at William Catt in The Greatest American Hero.
Yes, which I love, by the way.
I do too. But so whenever I think of Robert Pattinson in a movie, I think Twilight, and I just get this bad image.
Oh, he's glinting in the sun as he's walking out. I know.
I just get this bad image in my head, and it's like, oh, it was tough. But I got to tell you, he was awesome.
Yes.
So we'll go through performances. I mean, he was awesome. John David Washington is the star of the movie, who we just realized he's never named.
We actually had to look it up, because throughout the whole movie, we're like, I don't remember his name ever. We remembered because Robert Pattinson was Neil, and we were like, okay, remember Neil.
Yep.
And then Kat was Elizabeth Debicki. Loved her in the movie too.
She's okay.
Yeah, she was.
We'll go
awesome.
into reasons why. It has nothing to do with her performance.
It's the fact that she's almost 6'3" tall.
Oh, she's too tall.
No such thing.
I saw her on screen, and I'm like, oh, she's pretty. And then you saw her standing next to somebody, and you're like, oh my God, she's a giant. And I was just like, I leaned over to Dennis, and I go, too tall, man. There's no way. I wouldn't even nope, too tall.
No, and I'm just the opposite. I like tall women. I'm like, wow, she really is tall. I don't have to look up at too many women, but I would have to look up at her. She's taller than me.
If I was a single man, I'd date her, but I would have no further intentions because she's too tall. 5'5" and below, people.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, you got a height complex.
I do. I have a height complex.
Yeah.
The tallest girl I ever dated was 5'8", and I was like, oh man, all right, I can deal with it because she's still shorter than me. But anyhow,
yep,
she was good in the movie.
Yeah, I liked her.
And
Kenneth Branagh was.
Oh my God, Kenneth Branagh is the bad
Andre
guy.
Sater, and all I can say is awesome. I mean, he was amazing.
He's like Gary Oldman. They don't do bad performances.
Right.
He's that type of actor. And look, Tom Cruise, great actor. But have you gone to a Tom Cruise movie and been like, that was bad? Yes. Yes, you have. And it might not even be a bad movie.
Eyes wide shut.
It might just be he turned in a bad. But, Kenneth Branagh does not turn in a bad performance. Michael Caine. He was barely in this movie. But when he was, it's Michael Caine,
And I think his name was actually Michael. That's
it is.
Oh, they didn't even change his name. I love it.
But the one that, so we always, hey, behind the scenes here, when we talk about movies, we always pull up IMDb so we can see cast lists and stuff. I'd like to say we're smart enough to pull this off the top of our heads. I'm not. So one of the things I thought was funny is there's a guy in the movie named Ives, and he has a beard, full beard in the movie, and I think he's pretty much always wearing a helmet and stuff.
He's a soldier.
He's a soldier, paramilitary type guy that works with Robert Pattinson's character Neil, and he was played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And you're going, Aaron Taylor who? Who's he known for? What is the main character this guy's played that he's known for?
Kick-Ass.
He was Kick-Ass.
Yep.
So then I go and look. Kick-Ass was 10 freaking years ago. I cannot believe Kick-Ass was a decade ago already.
When you look at what he looks like now compared to then, you're like, oh yeah, I can see it. But seriously, we went through the entire movie without even paying any attention. We liked him as a character.
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
It never clicked with us. That's who it was.
Well, you're just not used to seeing the guy with facial hair. It was just weird. And obviously he played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron, which was once again 5 years ago. So half a decade ago, but you could tell it was him because, you saw his hair and he had no facial hair. So you're like, oh yeah, I recognize him. But in this movie, you don't recognize him at all. And he didn't have a huge part, but the part he had was good. So now let's get into the plot.
Because there's a lot of interesting plot in this one.
In the beginning, it's a Christopher Nolan movie. And what I mean by that is you just get, at least for me, you just get confused because he's always doing something with time.
It is. Every one of his recent movies have, Inception, Memento.
Those aren't even recent. 1917.
Dunkirk.
That's what I meant. Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Dunkirk. He messed with time.
Yep.
And not mess with it as in time doesn't work. He
explores it.
He showed it in Dunkirk. He just showed the events from different points of view happening at different times. In this movie, he's actually dealing with inverted objects, and what he means by that is the objects are somehow coming to us from a place of inversion. So instead of a bullet going forward, this bullet goes backwards, and things go backwards.
Time goes
backwards.
Travels at the same speed, but in one area it's moving forward, and in one area it's moving back, and they can intersect.
Right. And that's that intersection that when it's confusing in the beginning of the movie because you see this stuff and you experience it with the protagonist, John
which
David
is actually
Washington.
His character's name.
And his character's name
the protagonist.
Is the protagonist.
That's why we couldn't find a name.
So John David Washington, you experience this through his point of view with these things going backwards, and then he's basically pulled into this mission to save the world, and it's kind of explained to him what's going on with the inversion with time, and that's where you get a little it's like Christopher Nolan's like dropping breadcrumbs throughout the movie that leads you to, hopefully by the end of the movie you're not confused anymore. Now I will say at the end of this movie I was probably 80% there, like understanding it. So I do need to see it again, but I'll wait till it's on, cable or on demand to watch it again, just because it is 2.5 hours, and I'd rather sit at home.
And there's another reason why I want to
rewind.
watch it at home versus in the theater. So the one complaint that I have about Christopher Nolan, Interstellar was an example of it. Dunkirk, all of them. It's sometimes very difficult to hear what the actors are saying up on the screen. The score was magnificent. I mean, I loved it. I almost thought it was Hans Zimmer at first, but apparently it wasn't. He was on there. But the score is so good, but it's loud. The special effects are right there. The rumblings are right there. So when the characters talk, it kind of reminds me of his Batman movie with Bane, where you couldn't understand a lot of the stuff. So you're sitting there like leaning forward trying to listen, and you can't always catch what they're saying. So when it comes out on TV, or either, Netflix, Amazon, whoever gets it, we'll be able to do closed captioning and be able to see what they're saying, because there are many parts in this movie where you're missing a sentence or two. And the problem is there's so much information that he throws out. If you don't catch every little detail, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to miss stuff in this movie.
Well, it's not only that, but it's also, because I got that too with being able to hear some of the dialogue, but it's also something will happen in the movie, and then you'll either get an explanation, very intellectually done.
Through exposition.
Or you'll realize something and wish, I want to rewind, but you can't.
Right.
So that's why when I watch it again, I want to have the control to be able to rewind. So basically he's on a mission. John David Washington, the protagonist, is on a mission to find out where this material or where these objects or artifacts are coming from, the inversion artifacts, because if he can solve that, then basically save the world. And through that, he meets up with Michael Caine, and there will be spoilers, but not like, spoilers to the point of he meets up with Michael Caine, and then from that, he eventually makes his way to meet up with Robert Pattinson, and the two of them go on this mission to like this arms dealer, and the arms dealer, I would say, isn't all what they seem to be, without giving anything away. Right.
So one of the things that they do in this movie is he's got to figure out why there's inversion and why this is coming back. And I don't want to get you. This all deals with time travel. So people from the future are sending information and things back to the present day. So here's where it gets interesting. And in some cases, like my wife hated this movie.
Yeah, she
because
did.
It was
awesome.
She was so upset. She checked out halfway through the movie.
She said, I fucking hate this movie. Crack me up. I love your wife in her mouth. It kills me.
Yep, she's a trucker. I'm telling you, but she says it like it is.
She tells it like it is.
I'm telling you, I enjoyed it.
I loved
it. Because there was so much to think about. So they mention the grandfather basically paradox. And this is kind of pinnacle to the movie, but it also goes into any time traveling movie that we go to. This movie, and they talk about it because they're like, basically the grandfather paradox is wrong. So when you think of the grandfather paradox, think of Back to the Future. So you can go back, and if you alter something that happens, you're going to change the outcome of what you're trying to do. So Michael J. Fox, hey, if this happens, I'm going to disappear. And if I don't get my mother and father together, it's going to disappear. And then I'm going to fade out of existence. All right. This movie basically is saying that doesn't happen. Everything that's set, it's a linear time and space construct, which goes forward, and everything that's supposed to happen will happen no matter what you go back and try and do. Once you understand that point of it, all this interesting stuff that you see happen in the beginning, and you really have to pay attention because you're like, who's he fighting with? Who's the guy in the mask? What is that? All of this winds up becoming incredibly important at the end of the movie. So everything has a repercussion and has a causality to something else that's going on in the movie. It's amazing. They call the one thing that they call it the time pincer. So this is the kind of the point of the entire movie is they've got it going and it's a well done movie because they know they're trying to end the world and they're trying to stop them. So you've got guys in blue and guys in red. The guys in red are moving forward, right? And the ones in blue are moving backwards in time, even though they're on the same mission. And literally the entire movie boils down to the end of the movie because this is where the name of the movie comes from. Pincer. So think of arrows going towards each other. One of them, you've got 10 minutes moving forward and 10 minutes moving back. So when you think of the movie Tenet, it's Ten and then Et. So it's 10 moving forward and 10 moving back. So the whole movie winds up being the last 10 minutes is, do you save the world or does the world end? And the lead up and everything to it, I mean, it's a palindrome, you know, because it's what goes forward and back. And everything that the title shows it, just like in the title, Tenet, the movie's the exact same thing because everything at the beginning has an effect and happens at the end and they overlap one another and they come and they wind up meeting right into the middle. It is so well done in terms of, I mean, it almost blows your mind when towards the end of the movie, we're sitting there going, oh my God, we figured this out. And we're all shaking like, oh my God.
From a visual standpoint, once again, Christopher Nolan, it's really mind blowing. But going back to the grandfather paradox, hold on. I thought, and tell me if I got this right. I thought the way they explained it was, if I go back in time and I meet my grandfather as a kid, and for some odd reason, because I'm an a-hole, I bump him off, I'm still not going to disappear.
That's what this movie says. The grandfather paradox says if you did that, you would cease to exist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because this movie's taking it more from my thought of an Avengers Endgame, which is saying if I were to go back and do that, I would actually... Because you remember in Endgame when, what's-her-face, his character was talking to the Hulk and showed the timeline...
Oh,
and she said, if you go in the past and do this, it's going to create a different timeline. So what I'm saying is, if I go back in time and bump off my grandfather for some dumb reason, I'm not going to cease to exist. I just created a different time branch off of the main timeline.
Well, see, now that's actually a different one altogether.
Oh. So that's what I thought she meant when she explained it in the movie.
The way I interpret it from their version of it is that, and now this is where, as you guys all see this, feel free to leave us comments because this is something that's incredibly dizzying. The way it sounds like is whatever happens, even if you go back and you bump off your grandfather, whatever, everything still happens in a way where it will always happen this way. There is no way around it.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You know, time is linear, and even if you go back, that you can't end it. Now, what they're trying to do is stop the end of the world.
Right.
So, and it's kind of interesting. Do they or don't they? Well, we're still existing right now, which means you think maybe we must win because nothing else would physically happen. So. Anyway, this is where we could sit down and talk. And this is where my wife got lost. She goes, oh my God, I hate this crap. And she goes, it's just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, she just doesn't like movies they have to think about. But these are one of these topics that you can sit up and discuss late at night, you know, and just go on for hours. So is there a cause and effect with time travel? And there's so many different theories that are out there. One of them is like the butterfly effect, you know, if you go back and change something. And there's all these different movies and they all address time travel differently through, you know, different theories that are out there. This movie takes, in my opinion, a different approach on it. But Andy may have gotten something different out of it. Maybe you guys do too. This is why I kind of like this movie, and I think it's brilliant because we have to watch this movie 2 or 3 times and start going back and piecing it together. All right, did we miss this? Did we see this? Now that we know how this ended, because it's almost like a loop. What they did at the beginning, did it affect what happened at the end, or was it always going to happen and no matter what? And there's so many interesting spoilers we could talk about to try and prove these points, but we don't want to do that.
No, I don't want to spoil it. I really don't, because, we're not going to spoil it any more than what we did, which I don't think we really did that much at all. We gave you the basic plot breakdown of the movie and what John David Washington's character, the protagonist, has to do, and he teams up with Robert Pattinson and Kat, played by Elizabeth Debicki, who is way too tall, but does a great acting job.
Perfect height.
Kenneth Branagh, once again, is just fantastic. I mean, it's just a great cast. I'm going to give it probably like an 8.7. I'll go 8.7 on the scale, on our CGC movie rating scale, because I do want to see it again. It's just in theaters I won't, because there's limited time in the day, and there's other things that I want to see, so I can wait till it's out.
Yep, I'm going to say it's definitely worth watching. I kind of mentioned the detraction for me was the dialogue, trying to understand some of it. And that was frustrating at times because I'm like, oh my God, what did he just say? And I'm going, well, if he said this, then that would make sense here, but it would actually kind of not make sense here. So that was enough of a distraction where I'm gonna give it an 8.0. It was really good, and I think once I can see it with subtitles and pick up all the words that they said, and it's not just my old hearing going away. I mean, It was just hot. I talked to a couple other people that have seen it, and they all said the same thing. It was, it was hard to hear. The visualizations, like a building exploding and crashing down and then rebuilding itself at the same time as it's exploding. The visuals are stunning. I mean, this is... It's a masterpiece from that standpoint.
Yeah.
The acting was I didn't think of anybody in this movie, even the secondary characters, that did a bad job. These were all great acting jobs. So it got so many big points. But the sound, and again, the score was great, but you missed a lot because of that. So that's why I'm giving it an 8.0. But I'm still saying it is worth seeing. Absolutely.
IMDb gives it a 7.9, so they're right there with you.
Oh.
They're just 0.1 away from you.
Like to hear that wow. I'm kind of there with the audience.
You are.
Yeah.
Last but not least, football season is among us.
Yay!
This will give away when we're recording this, but it actually kicks off tonight. You can do the math and figure that out. I am in a fantasy league that Dennis invited me to be a part of. I thought it'd be fun if we ran down our team name and who is on each of our teams. Can you get yours pretty quick while I talk mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my team are the Dirty Boys. And the boys is our capital because I'm a Cowboys fan. We're the Dirty Boys. Oh, yeah. So I will say I've only done fantasy a few times before this. Most of the time, I just do a pick 'em thing where basically I'm in with a group and we just go through every week and you just pick the winners and losers and that's it. I've never really done fantasy because I wasn't too into it to the point of where, I got to stay up for the draft and then, I got to put together a roster every week. I'm a lazy guy. If it's just picking who's going to win and who's going to lose, I'm down. But Dennis asked, he's like, we got a spot. I was like, does it cost anything? No, that's a good check. Can I auto draft? He's like, you sure can. Check. What about during the week? He's like, maybe 10 minutes worth of your time. I'm like, let's do it. So
friends of ours, we've been doing this for, I think, like 10 years now. And it's just fun. Some of the guys, I don't live by them anymore. So it's just a great way every season to do it. And we had, one of our guys had been kind of bummed with what's been going on in the NFL and kind of decided, you know what? I don't want to deal with the NFL at all this year, so it kind of opened up a spot. So I was like, well, I'll ask Andy quick, and it's just it. It's a great, fun time.
Dennis is like, who can I get that'll probably suck?
Well, nobody.
Andy will probably suck.
Well, I was like, who never gets picked? Oh, yeah, Cowboy guys. They never get picked. Well, who would pick up Dallas Cowboy guys? Andy would. So I'll give Andy a call.
Okay. Well, let's go down our teams.
You should.
So my team is the Dirty Boys, and I auto-drafted because it wasn't the draft was at 10 o'clock, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to auto-draft it. I was already falling asleep on the couch. So I woke up. It was like Christmas Day. I got to unwrap and see who my team was. So I have 2 quarterbacks. I have Cam Newton. I'm not in love with that pick. Yeah. He's with the Patriots, so whatever. But I'm very in love with this pick. I have Tom Brady. I will go out on a limb and say I got the best quarterback in our little fantasy league.
Well, this is what's interesting, because we talked on one of our earlier episodes, we kind of mentioned Tom Brady. I'm going to love to see what he does with this team. Matter of fact, I went out on a limb, and after you picked him, I'm like, Gronkowski hasn't been, he might not be in shape, and they're on a different team. But I decided to pick up Gronkowski as a dark horse for my tight end, because I really want to see what these two guys are going to do. So you may have a hit on your team. I've had Tom Brady, I think 4 seasons. He always wind up falling to me. So he was like one of my staples. It's just the years that I had him a lot of times, he either got me lots of points or he gave me nothing.
All right. Well, so there's my QBs. I've got Tyreek Hill from Kansas City as a wide receiver. Kenny Golladay, Detroit, wide receiver, who as of now is questionable for Sunday, but that's still a few days off. I got my man, Ezekiel Elliott, Cowboys, running back. You know it, Zeke. Go Zeke. I got Austin Eckler from the Chargers, running back. Zach Ertz, Philadelphia, is my tight end. And Jonathan Taylor from Indianapolis is a running back. And then I'll just go through my starters. I got Matt Prater from Detroit as a kicker, who I'll be full honest, never heard of the guy before. And for defense, special teams, I've got Chicago, which I don't mind. That's fine. I'm actually fine with that. So that's my team.
Yeah. Mine went. I had a choice of quarterbacks, and I didn't want Andy to get it, so I wound up picking up Prescott from Dallas just out of spite.
But here's my thing, Dennis. I'm willing to trade you Cam Newton for Dak. I will trade you Cam for Dak Prescott.
As I have said multiple times, I wouldn't trade anybody for Cam. And I know some of you guys are big Cam fans. I am not. I wouldn't even trade a kicker for Cam.
You can have Superman on your team.
I've had him on my team, and that's why I've lost.
You son of a.
Yep, I would rather pick up a different guy.
All right.
And then I got Matt Stafford,
That's good.
And he's solid. He wasn't ranked so high this year, but he's usually a solid performer. And Detroit, they always kind of do well, but it all depends. I wound up picking up Lockett for my wide receivers. I got Lockett from Seattle and then Ridley from Atlanta. They're solid. My running backs, Hilaire from Kansas City and then Sanders from Philadelphia. Like I said, they're okay. Gronkowski, he's a wild horse.
Yeah,
but
lucky.
I know. We'll find out if he pans out or not. And then we've got a flex position, so I've got Ingram from Baltimore for as a running back in there. And the funny part was I wound up I picked up the Kansas City kicker and they released him. So immediately I had no kicker already because I only drafted one. I didn't want to back up. So I immediately had to drop him and then pick up Boswell from Pittsburgh. And then I was going to pick the Chicago Bears for my defense, but then literally I sniped right from me. So I wound up going with Minnesota. Because I actually was going to go with Chicago defense. I thought I think that was the better
pick. Because of Khalil
pick.
Mack.
Yeah.
Mack attack.
Yep, I would agree. I think he's, and being a Packer fan, we see a lot of him.
Your boy Aaron Rodgers hates that guy.
Well, I think almost everybody, all the quarterbacks in the league have that guy.
So there you have it. Thank you for listening to another show. You can find us on Facebook, Dennis and Andy Show. Now on YouTube, search out Dennis and Andy Show. So if you want to just pop open YouTube and listen to us, you can. And we're on iHeartRadio, iTunes, SoundCloud, Launchpad.
Yep. The YouTube one, we had people because we've got people listening to us from other platforms. They're like, it's easier for us to listen on YouTube. So I've went ahead and done it, and I've got most of them up and running now on YouTube. So you can find us, leave your comments on there, find us on Facebook, talk to us about Tenet or fantasy football, laugh at our team, whatever you want. Go ahead and make comments. We've got a movie to watch this week. One of our listeners said, "Hey, I want you to review this movie," and came over and gave us a copy of the movie. So it's the DC Deadshot one. So we're gonna watch.
No, Deathstroke.
Deathstroke. Not Deadshot. Yeah. Deathstroke. And then I was like, "Cool, that's awesome." So we're gonna go ahead and watch that and then review that next week and something else, which we'll leave for a surprise.
That's right. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Until next week. Grab your 3D glasses.
Get your favorite comic books, roll them up, and put them in your back pocket the way you should treat comics.
Throw your pigskin up on the mantle. This is Dennis.
This is Andy. Later friends.